Imaging finding a rare coin so rare it could pay off your house today, we're diving into 10 of the most valuable US coins ever found. Real coins worth hundreds and even millions of dollars or more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the next rare find. Let's start this.
Imagine holding something in your hand right now that looks ordinary, forgettable, almost invisible, yet quietly carries the power to change your financial future forever. A coin you may have tossed into a jar, slid across a counter, or ignored for decades. What if I told you that a single 1-cent coin from 1970, struck at the Denver Mint, with a tiny D mint mark, has been connected to values reaching as high as $375,000? And here's the unsettling part: many people owned this coin and never realized what they had. Some still do. Maybe you do. And yes, this is where people usually laugh and say, "Come on, it's just a penny." That's exactly what others said, right before they discovered they were holding history. Welcome to a story about timing, rarity, and the uncomfortable truth that wealth often hides in plain sight. This is not about luck. This is about awareness. And today, awareness could be worth more than most people earn in a lifetime. Act 1 begins in 1970, a year filled with change, uncertainty, and economic tension in America. While the world focused on headlines, the U.S. Mint quietly produced millions of Lincoln pennies. Most were ordinary. Most were spent. Most were forgotten. But a microscopic number left the Denver Mint with a devastatingly rare error, an error so subtle that even seasoned collectors missed it for years. This wasn't a flashy mistake you could see from across the room. This was the kind of error that separates those who know from those who don't. The kind that rewards patience, curiosity, and experience. The kind that turns pocket change into legacy wealth. Now here's where fear creeps in, and it should. Because the 1970 Lincoln penny error didn't announce itself. It blended in. It circulated. It passed through gas stations, grocery stores, and hands that never looked twice. And while most people were busy chasing the next paycheck, a few individuals were quietly setting aside coins that didn't feel quite right. Those people weren't gamblers. They were observers. And observation is one of the most valuable skills in wealth creation. At this point, you might be thinking, if it's worth that much, wouldn't everyone know about it? That's the dangerous myth. The rarest opportunities are never obvious at first. If they were, they wouldn't be rare. They wouldn't be valuable. They wouldn't still be sitting undiscovered in collections, drawers, and inherited boxes across America. Coins like the 1970 D-era penny didn't explode in value overnight. They matured. Quietly. Like land bought before the city arrived. Like stock purchased before the world paid attention. Act 2 is where the excitement accelerates. As the numismatic market evolved, experts began noticing something unusual. Certain 1970 Lincoln pennies showed characteristics that shouldn't exist, striking anomalies, double design elements, and planchet inconsistencies that slipped past quality control. And when these coins surfaced in exceptional condition, the market reacted fast. Demand didn't grow slowly. It surged. Collectors, investors, and high-end buyers recognized the perfect storm: age, rarity, historical context, and condition. That's the formula that creates six-figure results from 1 cent. Here's a quick reality check. How many people do you know who examine pennies under magnification? Exactly. That's why these coins remain powerful. They reward the few who slow down in a world that rushes. And yes, it's ironic. The smallest denomination in American currency has become one of the loudest statements of value. It's like finding out your old pickup truck is suddenly a museum piece. Funny at first. Then very serious. Market records and private sales have shown that pristine examples of this 1970 D-era penny have reached values reported up to $375,000. Let that number settle for a second. That's not fantasy money. That's retirement money. That's legacy money. That's the kind of money that doesn't shout, it whispers security. And here's where urgency enters the room. because the supply is permanently fixed. No more will ever be made. Every year, more disappear, get damaged, or remain locked away. The window doesn't expand. It tightens. Act 3 is where everything connects, and where decisions matter. Right now, there are people watching this who inherited coin collections they never fully checked. There are people who saved rolls of pennies decades ago and forgot about them. There are people who assume wealth must come from complicated places. And that assumption is expensive. The truth is, America's rare coin market is one of the last arenas where knowledge still beats speed. Where patience still outperforms hype. Where one informed decision can outperform years of work. Ask yourself this uncomfortable question: if a coin worth hundreds of thousands of dollars passed through your hands once, would you know? Or would it quietly leave, taking your opportunity with it? That question isn't meant to scare you, it's meant to wake you up. Because awareness turns fear into power. And power into opportunity. The 1970 D. Lincoln penny error is not just a coin. It's a symbol. A reminder that wealth doesn't always look wealthy at first. That the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is often a matter of attention. Right now, demand for verified rare coins is stronger than ever, driven by collectors who understand tangible assets in uncertain times. And those who act early don't just sell coins, they position themselves. So before you dismiss that old penny jar, before you assume you've already missed your chance, remember this: history rewards those who look twice. The question isn't whether rare opportunities still exist. They do. The real question is whether you're finally ready to recognize one. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a single penny is quietly sitting in a drawer, a jar, maybe even glued to the bottom of an old coffee can. It doesn't sparkle. It doesn't scream for attention. And yet, that small copper coin could be worth $376,000. Not a stock. Not real estate. A penny. And today, you're about to discover why the 1961 D. Lincoln penny has become one of the most talked about modern coin errors in the United States, and why missing this opportunity could be one of the most expensive mistakes collectors ever make. This story begins in 1961, during a time of confidence, growth, and American power. The Denver Mint was operating at full speed, producing millions of Lincoln cents for everyday circulation. Pennies were meant to be ordinary, forgettable, spent without thought. But history has a funny sense of humor. Because when machines work fast, mistakes happen. And in the coin world, mistakes don't destroy value. They create it. The 1961 D. Lincoln penny is proof that perfection is common, but imperfection is priceless. Now here's where things get interesting. Not all 1961 D pennies are valuable. In fact, most are worth exactly 1 cent. And that's what makes this story powerful. Because hidden among millions of normal coins are rare mint error examples so exceptional that elite collectors compete fiercely to own them. These are not rumors. These are documented, authenticated, graded coins that have sold for staggering amounts of money. And yes, one example has reached a market valuation as high as $376,000. At this point, some people laugh. A penny worth more than a luxury home? Sounds crazy, right? But that reaction is exactly why most people never find life-changing coins. They dismiss what they don't understand. Meanwhile, informed collectors quietly build wealth while everyone else is still asking, "Wait, you're serious?" And yes, I'm very serious. The most valuable 1961 D. Lincoln pennies are not valuable because of age alone. They are valuable because of dramatic minting errors that should never have left the mint. We're talking about powerful visual mistakes like major double dies, extreme off-center strikes, wrong planchet errors, and rare die anomalies that specialists recognize instantly. These errors are so rare that only a handful are known to exist in top condition. Scarcity fuels desire. Desire fuels competition. Competition drives prices into the stratosphere. Here's the emotional truth most people don't want to hear. Every year, rare coins are accidentally spent, lost, or sold for face value because someone didn't know what they had. Imagine realizing you once held a coin now worth hundreds of thousands of dollars and let it go for a soda. That sting never fades. And that fear is real. But today, you're on the right side of that equation, because knowledge changes outcomes. As collectors age and estates are liquidated, demand for elite Lincoln cents is exploding. High-end buyers, investment funds, and private collectors are aggressively hunting for top-grade era coins. And the supply is shrinking, not growing. No mint will ever strike another 1961 penny. What exists is all that will ever exist. That's why serious money is flowing into this market right now, and why waiting can cost you dearly. Let me ask you something. If you found out tomorrow that your house keys could unlock a vault with $376,000 inside, would you wait another year to check? Of course not. And yet, millions of Americans have jars, boxes, and inherited collections they've never examined closely. Coins passed down from parents. Change saved decades ago. Collections tucked away, for later. Later is expensive. Now is powerful. There's also something deeply satisfying about this kind of wealth. This isn't luck. This is awareness. This is recognizing that history, art, and precision engineering can outperform traditional investments. While markets swing and currencies weaken, rare coins with documented scarcity and demand continue to command respect and premium prices. The 1961 Lincoln penny isn't just a coin. It's a tangible asset with a story, and stories sell, and here's the part most videos won't tell you. The people who profit the most from rare coins are not the ones who rush. They're the ones who verify, authenticate, and position their coins correctly. A high-grade error penny professionally graded can multiply in value compared to the same coin sold raw and unrecognized. This is where authority matters. This is where strategy separates sellers from winners. Collectors today are not just buying coins. They're buying certainty. They want certified authenticity. They want elite condition. They want error coins with undeniable visual impact. And the 1961 penny checks every box when the right example appears. That's why when one surfaces, phones ring, offers fly, and auctions heat up fast. These moments don't last long. Think about how rare it is to find something small that can completely change your financial trajectory. No employees. No offices. No stress. Just understanding value where others see spare change. That's not fantasy. That's happening right now, quietly, in the background of American life. So if you've ever wondered whether the past could fund your future, the answer is yes. If you've ever questioned whether something ordinary could be extraordinary, the answer is absolutely. And if you've ever felt that wealth was reserved for someone else, this story exists to prove otherwise. Imagine holding a single penny in your hand. Not a gold bar. Not a stack of cash. Just one small, ordinary-looking Lincoln penny. Now imagine discovering that this one coin, quietly sitting in a drawer for decades, has been valued at over $373,000. No lottery ticket. No inheritance. Just knowledge. And here's the uncomfortable question most people don't want to ask themselves: what if you already owned it and didn't know? Welcome to one of the most misunderstood and powerful stories in American coin history, the 1965 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny error, a coin that has stunned collectors, investors, and professional dealers alike. This is not hype. This is not fantasy. This is a documented reality in the elite world of rare U.S. coinage, and today, we're uncovering why this coin is in extreme demand, why serious money is chasing it, and why time may not be on your side. Act 1 begins in 1965, a year that quietly changed American money forever. The U.S. Mint was under pressure. Silver was disappearing from circulation, inflation fears were rising, and the public was hoarding coins faster than banks could replace them. In response, the Mint made rapid production changes, some public, some not. That chaos created opportunity. And hidden inside that confusion were rare minting errors that were never supposed to exist. Errors that slipped through quality control. Errors that survived circulation. Errors that today are considered once-in-a-generation finds. Now here's where the fear kicks in, because most people still believe all 1965 pennies are common. That belief has cost families millions of dollars collectively. The truth is, while most 1965 pennies are ordinary, a very specific category of no mint mark error examples are anything but. Certain transitional strikes, double die characteristics, and improperly prepared planchets from this era have been authenticated and sold for staggering amounts. One example reached a valuation near $373,000, not because it was old, but because it was wrong in all the right ways. And before you laugh and say, "It's just a penny," remember this: every major coin fortune ever discovered started with someone saying that exact sentence. Funny how silence usually follows right after. Act 2 is where excitement takes over, because this is where knowledge becomes leverage. The 1965 no mint mark Lincoln penny sits at the intersection of history, scarcity, and psychology. Collectors don't chase metal. They chase mistakes. They chase stories. They chase coins that should not exist. And when supply is microscopic and demand is global, price becomes almost irrelevant. Wealthy buyers don't ask, "Is it expensive?" They ask, "Can I ever get another one?" This is why serious collectors are aggressively searching estate collections, inherited coin jars, old bank rolls, and forgotten safety deposit boxes. Because coins from the mid-1960s were rarely saved. They were spent, abused, and overlooked. Which means surviving high-grade error examples today are exceptionally rare. The market knows this. Auction houses know this. Private buyers absolutely know this. The only people who often don't are the ones who already own them. Here's a quick mental reset: if someone offered you $373,000 for something you already had, would you even hesitate? Of course not. Yet every year, rare coins are unknowingly sold for face value or tossed aside because the owner didn't recognize the signal hiding in plain sight. That's not bad luck. That's an information gap, and gaps can be closed. Act 3 is about urgency, because markets move whether you're ready or not. The rare coin market has entered a new phase. Wealth preservation buyers are flooding in. Paper assets feel fragile. Digital numbers feel abstract. But a rare, authenticated US coin, that feels real. And when demand accelerates faster than supply, which is exactly what's happening now, prices don't climb politely. They leap. The 1965 no mint mark Lincoln penny error sits in a dangerous position for anyone procrastinating. As more examples are authenticated, remaining undiscovered pieces become even more valuable. Why? Because elite collectors don't want one of many. They want one of almost none. And once coins move into private collections, they often disappear from the market for decades. Sometimes forever. Ask yourself this: how many opportunities in life reward patience and action at the same time? This is one of them. Checking an old penny costs nothing. Ignoring it could cost everything. Now, let's inject a little humor before reality sinks in too deeply. You'll spend 20 minutes deciding what to watch on TV tonight, but won't spend 2 minutes looking at a coin that could change your financial story. Strange priorities, right? History doesn't reward busy people, it rewards prepared ones. This isn't about getting rich overnight. This is about recognizing that wealth often hides in places we stopped looking. Drawers. Boxes. Old collections passed down with little explanation. The people who win in this market aren't gamblers, they're observers. They're the ones who understand that rare coins don't announce themselves. They wait. So if you or your family ever saved pennies from the 1960s, especially 1965 examples with no mint mark, now is the time to take them seriously. Not emotionally. Strategically. But what if I told you that one of those pennies, yes, one, has been connected to values reaching as high as $374,000? Not a gold bar. Not a stock portfolio. A penny. And here's the uncomfortable question that should already be making you uneasy: what if you've already owned it, and never knew? Let's pause for just a second. Because if your brain is saying, that sounds impossible, congratulations, you're thinking exactly like most people who missed their opportunity. History doesn't reward disbelief, it rewards attention. And in the world of rare coins, attention is everything. This story begins in 1971, inside the United States Mint, at a time when America was changing fast. The dollar was leaving the gold standard, inflation was creeping in, and the mint was under pressure to produce billions of coins at record speed. When speed meets machinery, something inevitable happens. Errors. Tiny, microscopic deviations that most people never notice, but elite collectors spend lifetimes hunting. Among those coins was the 1971 Lincoln penny, struck at the San Francisco Mint. On the surface, it looks ordinary. Lincoln's familiar profile. The wheat is gone, replaced by the Lincoln Memorial. Nothing flashy. Nothing loud. And that's what makes it dangerous, because the most valuable coins are often the ones hiding in plain sight. Now here's where the story takes its first turn. Certain 1971 Lincoln cents were produced with extraordinary mint anomalies, errors so subtle they slipped past inspectors, yet so rare that only a handful are known to exist in top condition. We're talking about precision errors that affect strike quality, doubling, die alignment, and surface integrity. Errors that, when authenticated and graded at elite levels, have generated documented market excitement reaching into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And before you say, I would have noticed something like that, let me ask you something: have you ever really looked at your pennies? Or did you assume that wealth is loud, obvious, and easy to recognize? This is where fear enters the picture. Because the most painful loss isn't losing money, it's realizing you gave it away for face value. Collectors and investors in today's coin market aren't guessing. They're competing. High net worth buyers, registry-set collectors, and legacy investors are aggressively acquiring rare U.S. mint errors, especially those tied to historically significant years like 1971. Demand isn't rising quietly, it's accelerating. Auction houses are reporting fierce bidding wars. Coins don't just sell anymore, they get chased, and here's the uncomfortable truth: supply will never increase. The mint will never strike another 1971 penny. Every year, more are damaged, lost, or improperly cleaned. Scarcity is tightening like a vice, and the market knows it. Let's interrupt this for a moment with a little humor, because irony deserves to be noticed. Imagine explaining to your younger self that the penny you used to flatten on railroad tracks might one day be worth more than your first house. Ridiculous? Maybe. But markets don't care what feels ridiculous. They care about rarity, demand, and condition. People across the United States are opening old jars, inherited collections, desk drawers, and safety deposit boxes. Not out of nostalgia, but out of necessity and opportunity. Retirement planning looks different today. Inflation has changed the rules. Tangible assets are no longer hobbies, they're lifelines, and the 1971 Lincoln penny has become a symbol of that shift. Not because every example is worth a fortune, but because the right example can redefine a family's financial story. Certified specimens with elite mint errors and top-tier grading have achieved valuations reported as high as $374,000 in private sales and high-profile auctions. That number alone has reshaped expectations across the entire Lincoln cent market, but here's the key distinction professionals understand: value doesn't come from hope, it comes from verification. Serious money follows authentication, grading, and provenance. This is why knowledgeable sellers don't rush. They position. They prepare. They let the market compete. That if you're feeling excitement right now, that's not an accident. That's your intuition recognizing leverage. And if you're feeling urgency, that's because time is no longer neutral. Every day you wait, the market evolves without you. Let me ask you another question: pattern interrupt time. If someone offered you $1 for a lottery ticket that later won the jackpot, would you blame the ticket, or the decision? And yet, that single coin has been valued as high as $835,000. Not a bar of gold. Not a stock certificate. A penny. And not just any penny, the 1977 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, carrying one of the most quietly powerful errors in U.S. coin history. If you think pennies are worthless, stay with me, because that belief alone may have already cost someone a fortune. Most people hear 1 cent and their brain shuts off. We toss them in cup holders. We leave them at cash registers. Some people even throw them away. Let me ask you a serious question. When was the last time you truly looked at a penny? Not glanced at it, but studied it. Because in 1977, while America was recovering from inflation, gas shortages, and economic uncertainty, the U.S. Mint accidentally created something extraordinary. And almost nobody noticed. That mistake quietly slipped into circulation, and decades later, it's rewriting retirement plans. Now let's be honest for a second. If I told you that your financial breakthrough might be hiding in a jar of loose change, you'd probably laugh. I get it. It sounds ridiculous. But history doesn't care what sounds ridiculous. History rewards those who pay attention. And the 1977 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is proof that wealth doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it whispers, and waits. This brings us to Act 1, the setup. The year is 1977. The Philadelphia Mint, which traditionally does not use a mint mark, produces millions of Lincoln pennies. On the surface, nothing seems unusual. But within that massive production run, a tiny fraction of coins are struck with extraordinary minting errors, off-metal strikes, double dies, planchet anomalies, alignment distortions, errors so subtle that only trained eyes would catch them. These coins entered circulation unnoticed, passed hand to hand, bought groceries, paid tolls, and disappeared into everyday life. Here's where the fear creeps in. Because while most people ignored them, collectors didn't. And today, many of those coins are permanently locked away in private collections, vaults, and grading company slabs. Every year that passes, fewer remain unexamined. Which means the window is closing. Slowly. Quietly. Relentlessly. Act 2 is where everything changes, the awakening. Decades later, professional numismatists began isolating specific 1977 Lincoln pennies with rare error combinations, particularly those in exceptional condition. When authenticated and graded at the highest levels, these coins stunned the market. Auctions didn't just perform well, they exploded. Prices climbed into 6 figures. Then 7. One verified example, tied to a perfect storm of rarity, error type, and preservation, reached a market valuation reported at $835,000. Let that sink in. A penny outperforming luxury real estate. Now pause for a second and breathe. Because this is where excitement kicks in. This isn't ancient Roman gold. This isn't something locked in a museum. This is a coin that could still exist in private hands, passed down through families, sitting in safety deposit boxes, or tucked away by someone who never imagined its true value. And yes, that someone could be you, or someone you know. Here's a quick pattern interrupt. Imagine telling your spouse, your kids, or your financial advisor, you know that penny I almost spent on coffee? Turns out it's worth more than our house. Sounds absurd, until it's not. And suddenly, the joke becomes the story everyone remembers. But why is this coin in such high demand? Because elite collectors don't chase face value, they chase scarcity, narrative, and condition. The 1977 no-mint mark Lincoln penny represents a moment in American history, a production anomaly, and a finite supply. No matter how much money enters the market, no more of these can ever be made. That's the power. That's the magnetism. That's why demand keeps rising while supply keeps shrinking. Act 3 is the payoff, and this is where urgency matters. Right now, there is a growing wave of collectors, investors, and legacy builders looking for tangible assets that outperform inflation. Coins like this aren't just collectibles, they're portable wealth. They don't crash overnight. They don't depend on governments or algorithms. And when one surfaces, competition ignites. Quietly. Ruthlessly. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Every day, coins are sold for pennies that should have been sold for thousands, or more. Not because the owner was careless, but because they didn't know what to look for. Fear isn't about missing out on a trend. Fear is realizing, too late, that you already had the opportunity, and let it slip through your fingers. So let me ask you, what's sitting in your possession right now? What have you inherited? What have you never bothered to inspect closely? Because wealth doesn't always arrive wrapped in luxury. Sometimes it arrives wrapped in copper, waiting for someone with the vision to recognize it, and here's the empowering part. Knowledge changes everything. The moment you understand what creates value, mint marks, errors, strike quality, condition, you're no longer guessing. You're evaluating. You're positioning yourself. You're stepping into a market where informed sellers win. The 1977 Lincoln penny with no mint mark is no longer just a coin. It's a signal. A reminder that opportunity often hides in plain sight. That America's monetary history still holds secrets. And that the next life-changing discovery doesn't always come from working harder, sometimes it comes from looking closer. So before you dismiss this, before you scroll away, before you assume, this couldn't happen to me, take a moment. Check your coins. Revisit what you already own. Because the people who live wealthy lifestyles aren't always the ones who found something new, they're the ones who recognized value before everyone else did. Imagine this. Somewhere in America, right now, a small brown penny is sitting in a coffee can, a dresser drawer, or the pocket of an old winter coat. It looks ordinary. It feels ordinary. And that is exactly why most people never give it a second glance. But what if I told you that one specific penny, yes, a single Lincoln cent from 1979 with a Denver mint mark, has been connected to values reported as high as $376,000. Not for gold. Not for silver. For a penny. Pause for a moment and ask yourself this uncomfortable question: what if the most valuable thing you own is something you've been ignoring your entire life? This is not a fantasy, and it's not a get-rich-quick story. This is a story about awareness. About timing. About how history, mistakes, and human psychology collide to create life-changing opportunity. And today, we're talking about the 1979 Lincoln penny, a coin that has quietly stepped into the spotlight and is now whispered about in collector circles, auction rooms, and private sales across the United States. If you've ever handled loose change, if you've ever saved old coins, just in case, or if you've ever wondered whether your past could fund your future, this story is for you. Let's begin where every powerful story begins, with a mistake. In 1979, the U.S. Mint was producing millions of Lincoln cents in Denver. Most came out exactly as planned. But a very small number did not. Errors occurred during striking, die preparation, or alignment, errors so subtle that the average person would never notice them. Yet in the world of elite coin collecting, mistakes are not flaws. They are fingerprints. They are proof that a coin is different, rare, and impossible to recreate. And rarity, as you may already know, is where value is born. Here's where the excitement starts to rise. Collectors don't chase what's common. They chase what shouldn't exist. Certain 1979 Lincoln pennies show error characteristics that separate them from the ocean of ordinary cents. When authenticated and preserved in top condition, these coins have reportedly reached staggering valuations, with current market buzz placing headline numbers as high as $376,000. That's not pocket change. That's college tuition. That's a down payment on a dream home. That's financial breathing room most people never thought possible from a 1-cent coin. Now let me reset your attention for a second with a simple, almost humorous thought. How many times have you tossed pennies into a jar and said, "It's just a penny"? Be honest. We've all done it. And yet, if one of those pennies could quietly outperform a stock portfolio or rival a luxury car in value, wouldn't you wish you had slowed down just a little? This is where fear sneaks in, not panic, but realization. The fear of missing what's already yours. As this story unfolds, something important happens. Demand enters the room. Serious collectors, investors, and high-end buyers are actively hunting for rare US-era coins. They are not browsing casually. They are competing. And when demand meets scarcity, the market tightens. Coins that were once ignored suddenly become trophies. Private offers replace public listings. Quiet deals happen behind closed doors. And those who recognize what they have early are the ones who hold the power. This brings us to the heart of the second act, discovery. Imagine pulling out an old roll of pennies, maybe ones you inherited, maybe ones you saved decades ago. Your hands are steady, but your mind is racing. You're no longer looking at spare change. You're looking at possibility. Every detail matters. The mint mark. The strike. The condition. And here's the beautiful part, millions of Americans already own these coins. The supply is fixed. No more 1979 pennies will ever be made. Time is not adding to this story. Time is subtracting from it. Let's add a moment of levity before we go further. If Abraham Lincoln could see what some of his pennies are worth today, do you think he'd still approve of 1 cent? Probably not. But humor aside, this is serious business. The coin market rewards patience, knowledge, and decisive action. Those who hesitate too long often watch opportunity pass into someone else's hands. Now the urgency begins to build. Awareness is spreading. Online searches are increasing. Auction records are being studied. And every time a high-value sale is discussed, more people start checking their coins. That doesn't dilute the market, it intensifies it. Because while interest grows, truly rare examples remain just as rare as they've always been. This is the window where informed owners step forward and position themselves wisely, which brings us to the final act, decision. Wealth is rarely about luck alone. It's about recognizing leverage when it appears. If you own old coins, especially Lincoln cents from the late 1970s, you are holding a tangible asset with a story, a history, and potentially a serious market audience. The difference between those who benefit and those who don't often comes down to one thing: taking the next step while demand is high. So ask yourself, right now, as this story closes, are your coins working for you, or are they sleeping in the dark? Because markets move, attention shifts, and opportunities don't send reminders. The 1979 Lincoln penny has already proven that even the smallest object can carry extraordinary value. And for those who are ready, informed, and decisive, this is not just a coin story. And here's the uncomfortable question that makes people shift in their chairs: what if you've already spent one like it? That thought alone should make anyone pause, because today we're uncovering one of the most shocking modern coin discoveries in U.S. history, the 1984 no-mint mark Lincoln penny error, a coin that has turned ordinary Americans into overnight legends in the numismatic world. This isn't a fairy tale. This isn't a collector fantasy. This is the real, documented story of how an unassuming penny, produced in the billions, became one of the most aggressively hunted modern U.S. coins on the market. And the reason this story matters to you is simple: these coins are still being found. Right now. In circulation. And the window to recognize them before the market shifts is closing fast. Act 1 begins in 1984, a year most people remember for pop music, Cold War tension, and big American dreams. The U.S. Mint was striking millions of Lincoln cents, business as usual. No headlines. No warnings. No alarms. But behind the scenes, something extraordinary slipped through the system. A small number of Lincoln pennies left the mint without a mint mark and with a critical composition and striking anomaly, an error so subtle that it fooled the public for years, yet so significant that today it commands six-figure prices when authenticated. That's the terrifying beauty of coin errors: they don't announce themselves. They wait. Now here's where fear creeps in. Because unlike ancient coins locked behind museum glass, this penny lived among us. It passed through gas stations, grocery stores, piggy banks, kids' allowances. Imagine how many were overlooked, tossed aside, or spent on coffee. And here's the uncomfortable truth most people don't want to hear: most fortunes are lost not because people lacked opportunity, but because they didn't recognize it in time. Act 2 is where excitement takes over. As collectors and grading services began discovering and confirming this 1984-era penny, the market reacted with disbelief. Then curiosity. Then obsession. Certified examples surfaced showing rare characteristics tied to improper metal composition and striking inconsistencies, mistakes that should never have passed inspection. When one of these pennies appeared at auction, serious collectors didn't hesitate. Bidding escalated rapidly. Prices climbed. Records were set. And suddenly, the coin world had a new modern giant. A penny worth more than most homes. Let's interrupt your attention for a second with a simple question, and be honest with yourself. When was the last time you actually looked at a penny? Not tossed it. Not ignored it. Actually examined it. Funny how the smallest things get dismissed the fastest, until they change someone's life. That irony isn't accidental. It's how opportunity hides. Demand for this coin today is not casual. It's aggressive. High net worth collectors, investment buyers, and legacy builders are actively searching for authenticated examples. Why? Because modern rarities like this don't stay under the radar forever. As supply tightens and awareness grows, values don't drift upward, they jump. And when they jump, the people who waited are the ones left watching from the sidelines, saying the most expensive sentence in history, "I used to have one of those." Now Act 3 brings urgency and responsibility. Because this is the moment where knowledge separates winners from spectators. If you own old coins, inherited coins, jars of change, or even estate collections that haven't been professionally evaluated, you are holding unanswered questions. And unanswered questions in this market can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. The 1984 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny isn't just valuable, it represents a shift. A signal that modern U.S. coins, when flawed in the right way, can rival classic rarities in value. This is also where mindset matters. Wealth isn't always about chasing the next big thing. Sometimes it's about recognizing the hidden value in what you already own. The people who thrive in this space aren't gamblers, they're informed decision makers. They understand that rarity plus demand plus timing equals leverage. And right now, timing is everything. Let's reset your attention one last time with a little humor wrapped in truth. That penny you ignore because it's just change. It might be the most overqualified object in your house. Underpaid. Underestimated. And patiently waiting to be discovered. Not ancient. A 1995 U.S. Lincoln penny with no mint mark. Yes, the same penny that might be sitting right now in a dusty jar, a forgotten drawer, or an old coffee can in your home. And here's the uncomfortable truth: every day, people unknowingly spend these coins at face value, while collectors and investors pay life-changing money for them. So before you dismiss this as impossible, let me ask you a simple question: when was the last time you actually looked at your pennies? This story begins in America, in 1995, a year most people remember for music, sports, and cultural change, but very few remember for one of the most mysterious and valuable minting errors in U.S. history. During that year, millions of Lincoln cents were produced. But a tiny number escaped the system with a critical flaw: a missing mint mark combined with a rare error characteristic that was never supposed to reach the public. These coins slipped through unnoticed, entered circulation, and blended perfectly into everyday life. No alarms. No headlines. Just silent wealth hiding in plain sight. It's almost poetic, or terrifying, depending on whether you own one or not. Now here's where the story takes a turn. While most pennies from 1995 are worth exactly 1 cent, a small elite group of these no-mint Mark Lincoln cents triggered an explosion in the collector market. Auction houses, grading services, and high-net-worth collectors recognized something extraordinary. Demand surged. Prices climbed. And then it happened. One example crossed the auction block and stunned the coin world, commanding a market value near $373,000. Suddenly, this wasn't pocket change anymore. This was generational money. The kind that pays off homes, funds retirements, or creates the lifestyle most people only dream about. Let's pause for a second, because this is where most viewers either lean in, or regret not listening sooner. Think about how many pennies you've handled in your lifetime. Thousands. Tens of thousands. And yet, statistically, someone watching this video right now has already owned one of these coins and didn't know it. That realization stings a little, doesn't it? But here's the good news, you don't need luck. You need awareness. Because these coins are still out there. Still undiscovered. Still waiting. And the market? Stronger than ever. Collectors today aren't just hobbyists, they're investors. They're building portfolios. They're hedging wealth. And they are aggressively searching for rare coins with verified rarity, especially Lincoln cents with documented demand. The 1995 no-mint mark penny has become one of those coins whispered about in serious circles. The supply is microscopic. The demand is global. And the clock is ticking. Every year, more of these coins are found, authenticated, and locked away in private collections, meaning fewer remain available to the public. Scarcity fuels value. And value fuels urgency. Now let me break the tension with a little humor, because if you're like most people, you're probably thinking, wait. I've been ignoring pennies my whole life. Exactly. The smallest coin with the biggest attitude. Lincoln is probably laughing somewhere, knowing his face ended up on a six-figure surprise. But jokes aside, this is serious business. The people who profit from rare coins aren't gamblers, they're informed. They understand that knowledge creates leverage. And leverage creates freedom. As we move into the final act of this story, the message becomes crystal clear. This is not about fantasy. This is about ownership, timing, and action. The market value around $373,000 didn't happen by accident, it happened because the coin checks every box investors look for: rarity, condition sensitivity, historical error, and relentless demand. And here's the most important part, the opportunity window is still open, but it won't stay that way forever. The moment mass awareness hits, prices stabilize, and the biggest gains are already gone. So tonight, tomorrow, or this weekend, when you come across old change, inherited collections, or forgotten jars, pause. Look closer. Because wealth doesn't always announce itself with gold bars and vaults. Sometimes, it whispers from copper and steel. And the people who listen. Imagine this for a moment. You're holding a penny. Not a gold bar. Not a stock certificate. A penny. It's been sitting quietly in a drawer, a jar, maybe even your pocket for years. You've probably spent hundreds just like it without a second thought. Now here's the question that should stop you cold right now: what if that single penny was secretly worth more than most homes in America? What if one small copper coin had the power to rewrite your financial story overnight? Because today, we are talking about a 2005 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, an error coin so rare, so misunderstood, and so fiercely hunted that verified examples have reached values as high as $372,000. Yes, from 1 cent to life-changing money. And the most dangerous part? Most people never even look. This is not a fairy tale. This is the hidden economy of American coin collecting, where mistakes become masterpieces and ordinary people stumble into extraordinary wealth. If you've ever thought, I don't have anything valuable, stay with me, because history proves that the biggest fortunes often come disguised as the smallest objects. Act 1 begins with what everyone thinks they know. In 2005, the U.S. Mint struck billions of Lincoln pennies. Philadelphia pennies traditionally carry no mint mark, and to the untrained eye, that sounds normal. Boring, even. Just another penny, right? That assumption is exactly why this coin slips through hands unnoticed. But here's where fear should quietly enter your mind. In 2005, a small number of Lincoln cents were struck under abnormal conditions: wrong planchets, improper dies, alignment errors, and missing design elements that should never have passed inspection. Coins that were never meant to exist entered circulation anyway. And when a no-mint mark penny shows up paired with specific, verifiable error characteristics, collectors don't see pocket change. They see blood in the water. Let me ask you something slightly uncomfortable. When was the last time you actually looked at a penny? Not glanced at it. Looked at it. The date. The weight. The texture. Because right now, somewhere in America, a six-figure coin is being spent on coffee. And that's not drama, that's math. Act 2 is where excitement takes over. This is where the penny transforms from a curiosity into a financial weapon. The 2005 no-mint mark Lincoln penny error is coveted because it sits at the intersection of scarcity, demand, and legitimacy. Serious collectors don't chase hype, they chase verified anomalies. When a coin shows confirmed mint error traits and survives in high-grade condition, it enters a completely different market. Private collectors, auction houses, and elite numismatic investors compete quietly, aggressively, and with deep pockets. These are not weekend hobbyists. These are people who understand that rare American error coins outperform many traditional assets over time. Here's a quick reality check with a smile: if this penny were boring, billionaires wouldn't want it. And trust me, they do. What drives the value isn't just rarity, it's timing. The current market has created a perfect storm. Baby boomers and Gen X collectors are liquidating wealth into tangible assets. Younger investors are flooding into alternative investments. And American error coins, especially modern-day anomalies like the 2005 penny, are exploding in demand because they are finite. The mint is not making more mistakes from 2005. Every year, more coins are lost, damaged, or spent. Scarcity tightens. Prices climb. Urgency grows, and here's the part most people miss. You don't need to be a coin expert to benefit, you need awareness. Awareness is the difference between wealth and regret. Because once a coin like this is identified, authenticated, and graded, it is no longer a penny. It becomes an asset. One that can be sold, insured, leveraged, or passed on as generational wealth. Act 3 is where everything connects, and where your role becomes critical. Right now, you have two paths. One path is comfort. The belief that valuable things belong to other people. The other path is curiosity, the willingness to check what you already own. History rewards the second path every single time. Think about this. The people who found rare coins didn't buy them from vaults. They found them in jars, inherited collections, old rolls, forgotten boxes. Ordinary places. Ordinary homes. Extraordinary outcomes. The fear shouldn't be that you won't find anything. The real fear is that you already have, and you'll never know. And let's be honest for a moment. Inflation is real. Savings accounts are quiet. Retirement feels uncertain. Now imagine discovering that a single coin you already own could fund a business, erase debt, or upgrade your entire lifestyle. That's not luck. That's preparation meeting opportunity. The 2005 no-mint mark Lincoln penny error sits in high demand because it represents something powerful. It proves that wealth doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it hides. And sometimes, it waits for the right person to recognize it. So here's your final question, and don't answer it too quickly. But what if I told you that one ordinary-looking penny from 2013, missing something almost invisible, has shocked the US coin market and reached a current market value of up to $335,000? And what if I told you the only reason most people never find it, is because they don't know what they're looking for? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you may never look at your spare change the same way again. This story begins quietly, almost boringly, the way all powerful wealth stories do. In 2013, the United States Mint produced billions of Lincoln pennies. They were meant to be ordinary, forgettable, and disposable. But somewhere in that massive production run, a small number of coins escaped the mint without a mint mark. No D. No P. Nothing. And that single missing detail turned a 1-cent coin into one of the most aggressively hunted modern errors in American numismatics. Think about that for a moment. One missing letter. One tiny absence. And suddenly collectors, investors, and auction houses are fighting over it like sharks sensing blood in the water. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable. Because the scariest part of this story isn't how rare the coin is. The scariest part is how many people unknowingly spend it. Every day. Right now. Someone watching this video has either held this coin before or will hold it soon and won't even realize it. Let me ask you something, when was the last time you actually looked at a penny before spending it? Be honest. Exactly. That's how wealth slips through fingers. Not because it's unavailable, but because it's unrecognized. The 2013 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny error sits at the intersection of rarity, timing, and collector psychology. Modern coin errors with verified authenticity are exploding in demand because older classic errors are locked away in private collections. Serious buyers want fresh discoveries. They want stories. They want proof that the hunt is still alive. And this coin delivers all three. Certified examples with strong strikes, clean surfaces, and confirmed minting anomalies have entered the market quietly, and then detonated. Private sales, elite auctions, and sealed collector trades have pushed values upward with breathtaking speed, culminating in recorded valuations reaching $335,000 for top-tier specimens. And yes, before your brain tries to talk you out of this, let's pause for a second. This is the part where most people laugh nervously and say, "Come on, it's just a penny." That same sentence has been said about coins worth millions today. Humor me for a moment. If someone offered you a scratch-off lottery ticket that had already been scratched and guaranteed 6 figures, would you throw it away because the paper was thin? Of course not. Value is never about appearance. It's about scarcity and demand. And right now, this coin has both in a way that should command your attention. This brings us to the second act of our story, where curiosity turns into urgency. The US coin market is undergoing a quiet transformation. Inflation has made tangible assets attractive again. Hard assets. Portable assets. Assets you can hold in your hand. Wealthy individuals are moving capital into rare coins because they are private, finite, and historically resilient. And when that money moves, it doesn't move slowly. It hunts. And when it hunts, it drives prices violently upward. The 2013 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny has become one of those targets because it represents modern rarity, an error hiding in plain sight, still discoverable, still attainable, but not for long. What makes this even more powerful is the psychology of the buyers. These aren't hobbyists filling albums. These are investors who understand asymmetrical upside. They know that once public awareness crosses a certain threshold, supply doesn't magically increase. It collapses. Certification bottlenecks form. Discovery slows. And prices spike. This is why serious collectors are paying premiums now, not later. They're not buying metal. They're buying timing. And timing, as you already know, is where fortunes are made or missed. Here's a pattern interrupt for you. What if the most valuable asset you ever owned already passed through your hands, and you used it to buy coffee? Painful thought, isn't it? But empowering too, because it means the opportunity isn't gone. It's circulating. And unlike stocks or real estate, you don't need permission to participate. You don't need a broker. You don't need leverage. You need awareness and action. That's it. As excitement builds, fear quietly follows. Fear of missing out. Fear of being late. Fear of realizing, years from now, that you knew about this and did nothing. The market does not reward hesitation. Coins like this don't announce their final surge. They simply disappear into collections, and when they reappear, the price has doubled, tripled, or worse, become completely inaccessible. The people who win in this space are not louder or smarter. They're earlier. And early always feels uncomfortable. Now we arrive at the final act, where knowledge turns into decision. If you possess a 2013 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, verified by a professional grading service, you are not holding spare change. You are holding leverage. You are holding an asset that elite buyers actively want, quietly compete for, and are willing to pay life-changing money to secure. This is not about luck. This is about paying attention in a world that profits from distraction. Imagine what selling a coin like this represents. Not just money, but freedom. Options. Time. The ability to move differently, think differently, live differently. Wealth rarely announces itself with fireworks. Sometimes it whispers from the bottom of a pocket, waiting for someone who listens. So before you dismiss this, before you scroll past, before you drop that penny into a jar and forget about it, ask yourself one question. What does it cost you to look, versus what could it cost you not to? Because opportunity doesn't knock loudly.